In 2022, right-wing firebrand Marjorie Taylor Greene continued to make waves in the House of Representatives and the political world. A fierce ally of former President Trump, the Georgia Republican assailed her political enemies, slamming Democratic policies and blaming President Biden's leadership for the problems faced in the U.S. A thorn in the side of both Democrats and Republican leadership, Greene maintained a consistently hard right tone. Though she was removed from her committee assignments back in 2021, Greene frequently made House floor speeches and appearances at press briefings and Trump rallies. In the next Congress, Greene has been assured by Republican leaders she will sit on committees.
All right, let's see. How do you feel about Minority Leader Mitch McConnell? I was just trying to be nice. I think Mitch McConnell should retire. Now, actually, I'm not really a fan. I think he works across the aisle and he allows things to happen. One of the things that I'm most angry about is he made that infrastructure bill possible. And that is all of his fault because he led 19 senators to pass it. And then that gave the green light to, unfortunately, 13 unlucky members of the House that I work with, Republicans, that voted for that bill too. And so shame on Mitch McConnell. He needs to act like a Republican. Here, I wasn't shy about that answer, was I? Commercial truck insurance has doubled over the last 3 to 4 years. Shameful. Is there anything Congress can do to get the rates down? Boy, insurance just keeps getting more expensive, doesn't it? This is something that I think we have to look into. I don't know why would the insurance keep going up? That would be my question. But yeah, this is something I'll definitely look into because truck drivers a lot of them are small business owners. They're like entrepreneurs that work for themselves. And you know, as a small business owner myself, I think that's one of the best things that we're able to do as Americans, and it shouldn't be difficult, especially with regulations and the high cost of insurance. It's already hard enough to work for yourself, and so hopefully there is something we can do about that. What are you doing to ensure HB 2 passes constitutional carry? Okay, this is something I really support. I think that it has to be passed this year. I've definitely called Governor Kemp and told him this is important, especially for my district. I think it's important for the entire state. I think that our Georgia legislators should get it done, and they're in session right now. They're in session through, I think, mid-April. So listen, call yours, call your rep, call your state senator, tell them to get it done. I was down there across the street from the Capitol yesterday, and that was a topic of conversation. I think it should be a conversation in the governor's race, but I think this is a top priority for Georgia, and I'm going to do everything I can to push it. So you can count on that. Is this administration committed to keep our embassy in Jerusalem? I certainly hope so. I think that was one of President Trump's top accomplishments. That was great. I will say, Joe Biden, whether he remembers or not, he did say that he wouldn't move the embassy. But I know that there's a lot of the progressives, Democrats, would like to see it moved. They are completely against Israel, especially like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, you know, some of those, the lovely ladies, AOC, yeah. We could go on and on. How can the average citizen get more involved in politics to change our landscape for the better? Woo, good question. Thank you for that one, Lee. I think getting involved, volunteering, run for local office, whether it's city, county, state even, I think that is the best thing that everyone can do. Volunteer your time. Your local GOP is a good place to go to ask those questions. Not enough people get involved in the GOP. GOP meetings were something that I didn't even go to before I ran for Congress. And I was like, this is something I think that we should all get more involved in. So I would recommend going to your local GOP and asking those questions. Go to your local election office and ask about how can I volunteer. I think that's a great place to go too, so that's a good question. Oh boy. Regulations are killing the trucking industry. Yes, they are. Is there anything that can be done to reduce the number of regulations? Absolutely. I hope when we take back control, there are so many regulations that need to be cut. You know, a lot of times you'll hear people talk about members of Congress. They consider, like, are they successful by how many bills they pass? Actually, I think we should be considered successful by how many programs we end and how many regulations we cut. But I want to say, like, especially right now with this critical supply chain problem we have, God bless our truck drivers. God bless them. And all that they're going through. But yes, no, regulations are killing the trucking industry. I think there was some things had expired this year, and it's making it more difficult for truck driving schools to have enough schools to educate drivers and pass them. And this is something that, like, we should be promoting these type of jobs instead of, here kids, go to this expensive 4-year college and walk out with hundreds of thousands of student loan debt that you're going to demand the government just pay for and forgive your debt. We should be promoting great jobs like trucking, linemen. We have a great lineman school here in the district. There's so many great jobs out there where electricians, construction, where people can make great livings, and these are jobs that we really need. So glad somebody asked about truck drivers, and I agree, we need to get rid of these regulations.
There's no person in this country right now who exemplifies that, who provides a better example than Marjorie Taylor Greene. I want to introduce the newest member of Team Vance, my good friend, the Congresswoman from Georgia, a woman who is not despairing about this country, but is fighting for it every day, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
But I'm so excited. Thank you, JD. I tell you what, this is exactly what Ohio needs to send to the U.S. Senate. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Mitch McConnell needs the message. Ohio is not going to tolerate rhinos anymore. Ohio is not going to send somebody up there to represent them in the Senate to keep on going along and getting along with the uniparty in Washington. Ohio needs to send JD Vance.
Madam Speaker, I yield one minute to the gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Greene.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to another bill that puts China first and America last. Instead of focusing on a bill that's almost 3,000 pages, worth 325 estimated billion in spending, estimated, that doesn't really help America. It's going to give out $8 billion to the UN Climate Fund and mentions coral reefs 383 times. What Congress should be doing is working on a budget that will fund our government, since we're running out of money in just a few weeks. What Congress should be doing is doing something about the fentanyl that's coming from China that's killing young people and is now the #1 cause of death in Americans from 18 to 45, not COVID-19. What Congress should be doing is funding a wall, building a wall, protecting our border, and deporting illegal aliens who are stealing American jobs. That's what we should be doing to help the American worker. But instead, we're debating a bill that's going to fund climate change, the Green New Deal, and help the coral reefs. This isn't what Americans care about. We all should be voting no and doing a better job.
Look, we all want to help. All of us want to help. We earned this position to speak on the behalf of our constituents in our homes, in our home districts. We all want to help. America is the most generous country on the planet, and we know that there are people that are wanting, that are hurting, that are seeking a better opportunity. We have a process here. If you ask the American people to obey the law, why is it too hard to ask people that aren't American citizens to obey the law? Yet that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. It is unacceptable. I'd like to recognize great lady from Georgia, Ms. Greene.
Thank you so much, Mr. Perry. And maybe you and I can discuss together, and maybe you can help me with some things. You know, I'm new to Congress. I'm a freshman member of Congress. And I've been pretty shocked. I thought Congress's role is to create a budget for the United States, for our government, and we're about to run out of money in just a few weeks. And the 117th Congress hasn't produced a budget to keep the government open. It's appalling to me as a business owner that we're even in this situation. You know, private businesses go out of business when we are not able to produce a budget that makes a profit to be able to pay our employees, to be able to buy our materials and continue. So that's something I'm struggling with. And I'm also struggling with this, Mr. Perry, is that I heard the Democrats present a bill today that they're very much wanting to pass called the Competes Act, having to do with our American jobs and economy in relation to China. But here's the real trouble for me, and this is where I struggle. You know, American jobs are so important, but yet our border is wide open and being invaded every single day. And I just can't comprehend why Congress doesn't pass legislation and write into law that illegal aliens should be deported, because illegal aliens are competing with American jobs, and I find that to be a major problem, especially being in the construction industry where we have to employ legal Americans to do these jobs. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and maybe you can help me out there.
Well, I don't know if I can help you with that, Marjorie, but I was also in business. We had a mechanical contracting business. It's hard, heavy work. And we, too, hired American citizens. We had to have documentations for the folks that we hired. Wouldn't it be great, though, since you brought it up, the Competes Act? Mm-hmm. Look, we all want to compete better with China. We know that they're our adversary. They consider us the enemy. First of all, the Competes Act doesn't do that. It doesn't do anything to secure America from an aggressive, bellicose China. But shouldn't the Competes Act be about a competitive America? And what about the competition that American citizens are in their own country for their own jobs with people that are here illegally? Shouldn't the Competes Act be about making sure people don't come here illegally? And let's face it, some folks have already talked about the policy that's required. The Border Patrol said, we just need the policy. Policy's in place. Mm-hmm. Laws are in place. Article 2, Section 3 says the president will faithfully execute. But if the president doesn't faithfully execute, the laws are in place. Whether we call the Competes Act something against China or whether the Competes Act is about American citizens who have to compete in their own country against foreigners, if no one's going to faithfully execute it, it's not going to matter.
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Perry. And then we learned yesterday that Border Patrol agents are completely demoralized, that they are not even capable of doing the job that they were hired to do, that our United States government hired them to do, because their authorities are not allowing them to do it. And so they're not able to deport illegal aliens so that our American people can have jobs. No, our American people are having to compete with them. But even worse, what we learned is about fentanyl. Fentanyl coming from China. And that's what bothered me when I was listening today to the Democrats debate this bill with us, is that only in this Competes Act bill, it mentioned fentanyl 10 times, only 10 times. But yet it's Chinese fentanyl coming from communist China that is killing young people. It's the #1 cause of death with Americans age 18 to 45. And that's a tragedy, but yet we've been controlled by COVID-19. Children in school are forced to wear masks. People are told they have to take vaccines. It's totally out of control, but yet it's fentanyl from China. And here's something else. Maybe you can help me out with this, Mr. Perry, since I'm new here. Why doesn't the Joe Biden administration, why don't the Democrats care about doing something about fentanyl, a horrible poison coming in from China, but yet they care more about coral reefs?
I think that's a great question. Over 100,000 dead from overdose due to fentanyl coming from through our southern border from communist China, and yet we're locked down in many places still. In the capital, in the United States, in their capital city, people from across the country can't come here and get a meal. You can't even come into the Capitol. I also like to recognize Mr. Clyde from Georgia. He should get in on this. Maybe you can answer your colleague's question, because I sure can't.
Well, thank you, Mr. Perry. You know, I just think that the Democrats, they just don't know how to govern this city. That's just a huge issue. You know, and we can see that with what's happening on the southern border. President Biden's raging border crisis and the harm it inflicts upon our great country, the dangerous catastrophes that I simply cannot ignore. We're talking about over 2 million illegal crossings in a single year, thousands of pounds of fentanyl seized, as we just talked about, and an unknown number of illegal migrants, some with criminal records, some on the terrorist watch list, released into hundreds of communities across the nation. Yet out of cowardice or complacency or both, the Democrats remain silent on record high levels of illegal migrant crossings and drug seizures at our southern border. My Republican colleagues and I have responded to the left's inaction with letters demanding answers, with legislation, and with continuous coverage of what's really happening under Biden's watch. Furthermore, my House Freedom Caucus colleagues, led by my good friend Chairman Perry, held a hearing on the Biden administration's open border policies and inadequate border security just yesterday. During this hearing, we heard numerous witnesses describe the fire of chaos at the border and the policies that have fueled the flames. Many Americans know about the ongoing border crisis and its root causes. Joe Biden and his crisis-ridden failed administration with a 33% approval rating. Yet I don't believe the American people are aware of the United Nations involvement that aids migrants on their expedition to our southern border. According to one of the witnesses that participated in our hearing yesterday, Todd Bensman of the Center of Immigration Studies, UN agencies such as the International Office of Migration and the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees and their counterparts are providing assistance, including financial assistance, to help migrants on their journey, where they will eventually attempt to illegally cross the United States border. This witness further explained that the United Nations Cash-Based Interventions Program supplies reusable plastic cash cards worth hundreds of dollars each and cash-filled envelopes, among additional resources to individuals on the migrant trail from South America to Texas. This is unbelievable, it's illogical, it's criminal, and it's just plain wrong. The United Nations is actively subverting the security of our southern border. Just think about that statement for a moment. Just think about it. But guess again who's funding the bill? It's the American taxpayer. The United States contributes billions of dollars to the United Nations every year, meaning our citizens are paying for fraudulent UN programs that contribute to the very border crisis that is threatening their lives and livelihoods. It's also absolutely ludicrous that our country is funding programs and then the UN simultaneously derails our national security, sovereignty, and freedoms. As our national debt just hit $30 trillion, this senseless spending isn't just fiscally irresponsible, it's also morally bankrupt, as it enables illegal migrants, human traffickers, drug smugglers, dangerous criminals, and terrorists to take advantage of the Biden administration's open border policies. Well, enough is enough. We must defund all these UN programs. Not defund the police, but defund the UN programs that encourage foreigners to violate our laws, to breach our border, to jeopardize our nation, and put Americans last. Thank you, and I yield back.
I thank the gentleman, and I inquire with the chair the time remaining.
Thank you for letting me represent you. Honestly, it's an honor of a lifetime. I really do feel that way. And I'm working very hard. I want you to know I'm working very hard because Washington, D.C. has truly forgotten what America stands for and what the American people care about. And I want you to know I remind them every single day that I'm there. So So while the national news media and the bubble in Washington, the swamp, they want to tell everybody that MTG is crazy, here's what I have to say to them. No, it's you people that are crazy because the rest of the American people have had enough with it. I'll do that. Well, here's what's going on, everyone. In Washington, we are now planning the next omnibus bill. Doesn't that sound exciting? We're $30 trillion in debt, and we can barely come together on a budget that is actually a balanced budget. That's what I ran for Congress on, a balanced budget amendment. It's something that I believe in because I'm one of those people that believes that, I think we should do a good job with the American people's hard-earned taxpayer dollars instead of continuing to produce a debt. We're now $30 trillion in debt, $30 trillion. And it was last spring that Congress voted on a bill, and you all know I voted no. That's my favorite button to push, the red one. And it was the American Rescue Plan for COVID, of course. The American Rescue Plan, $1.3 trillion. Well, I want you to know that the Biden administration has come out and announced that they feel it's very important to have $30 billion more dollars for future COVID. Wait, y'all, COVID is the future. Come on. So Joe Biden, there is no new COVID. There's multiple variants of COVID. Have you heard the Queen in England has COVID now? We call that the royal variant. It'll be here soon. You just wait. We'll say, all hail to the Queen. Well, in all sincereness, we do hope she's okay, and we wish her good health and recovery. But yes, so Joe Biden and his administration has decided that we need to spend, and have $30 billion ready for the next variant. Well, we know what this variant will be. We'll go ahead and call it the midterm variant. Yes. They sure have learned how to work COVID. It has worked in their favor all along. But here's who it hasn't worked for. Most importantly, it hasn't worked for our children. And what has happened to our kids and their generation because of COVID-19 is absolutely unforgivable. This generation of kids are now behind in their learning because school was shut down. They were sent home. They had to learn online for the first time, and now they're back in school and they're still being forced to wear masks. That's happening in most places across the country. That's child abuse. Masking children is child abuse. It needs to end immediately. Well, I will tell you all, there's one thing good that came out of parents having to be at home with their kids, and they looked into their education and their curriculum, and they found out about something called CRT, critical race theory. Did you ever imagine, after all the civil rights era and everything that's happened in our country, how we ended racism and ended all these problems, but now it's back in the form of our education? See, this is another thing I ran for Congress on, is that we need to eliminate the Board of Education.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah.
It has become a tool used against our kids, and it's completely wrong. This is something that we need to continue to talk about. Parents should be in charge of our children's education, and that's why I support school choice. Well, while the Biden administration dreams of more variants, and I'm sure that Dr. Anthony Fauci would like to figure out how to produce more of them. After all, didn't he fund the gain-of-function research? Isn't it amazing the things that we find out and nothing ever happens? No one's ever held accountable, no one ever goes to jail. What do you guys think about Hillary Clinton? How about that? After we chanted at Trump rallies when he ran for president the first time, and we did chant, "Lock her up," and we meant it. Now the Durham investigation has released information that, oh yeah, indeed, Hillary Clinton's campaign was spying on then candidate Donald J. Trump. And oh yeah, that was true, that Hillary Clinton's campaign and more, her attorneys from Perkins and Coie, that they did spy on not just candidate Donald J. Trump, but President Donald J. Trump when he was in the White House. It is criminal, and those people should be in jail. These are the things that the American people find unforgivable. This is why we do not trust Washington. This is why we don't trust the swamp. This is why we don't trust the FBI, the Department of Justice, and many others involved. But yet they carry on, and here's what makes me more disgusted and sick to my stomach and angry, is our mainstream media sweeps it under the rug, don't they? The mainstream media thinks all of you people are stupid. They do. They believe that with their powerful platforms, they can say whatever they want. They can tell you what they think is important. They can tell you what they think you should think is important. And then they want to lecture you and tell you how bad you are and call you names like insurrectionist and white supremacist and Russian collusion, all of these crazy, horrible names. And what did they call President Trump? What did they call President Trump and his supporters for nearly 5 years? Nazis. Horrible, horrible names. Oh yeah, never forget Hillary Clinton. Deplorables. Yeah, I'm proud to be one too. But the mainstream media, they think they're so much smarter and so much better than the American people, but here's what they haven't figured out. They have lost their reputation. They have lost your respect. And they have lost one thing most important of all, is that's your trust. And they deserve to lose your trust because they aren't doing their job. In a country where they have freedom of press, one of the most amazing freedoms that journalists can have to tell the truth and tell the stories, they abuse it. Because the freedom of press was never meant to be the freedom to lie. Never. And it's shameful.
But I just found something that said, you're quoted as saying in talking to Real America's Voice, that whereas January 6th was just a riot at the Capitol, and if you think what our Declaration of Independence says, it says to overthrow tyrants. So do you think that the assault on the Capitol was a legitimate exercise of popular insurrection?
Oh, Mr. Raskins, I know it's early in the morning, but this is the Rules Committee. This isn't your Trump derangement committee that you call the January 6th committee.
My last name doesn't have an S on it, Ms. Greene.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Raskin.
Okay, you've been talking about the Second Amendment. You came here to talk to us about the Second Amendment, right?
I'm here to talk about due process rights and protecting Americans' due process rights.
All
yes.
right, so I just want to be clear. You've been quoted at least as saying that the January 6th riot at the Capitol was in the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, which says you can overthrow tyrants. You've also testified that people have a right to carry guns, presumably wherever they want to go. So it seems to me that lots of people were armed on that day, but the logic of your argument is that everybody could have been armed and brought their weapons with them. And I'll take that
what
as a
evidence
conclusion.
What evidence do you have that a lot of people were armed that day? Mr. Raskin, do you have that to introduce into the record?
Just wait for it. But when it comes out, presumably you'll be supporting it, right? That they would have a right to have guns and knives with them. Is that right?
Mr. Raskin.
Is that your position?
No, Mr. Raskin.
No, I'm going to ask the questions here because this is the Rules Committee. You're not a member of the Rules Committee, Ms. Greene. Are you? Are you a member of the Rules Committee?
I'm a witness here at the Rules Committee.
Okay, so let me just ask you a question.
That is talking about due process rights, not your lies about January 6th, about President Trump and others.
Okay. I never mentioned him. You've brought him up.
I yield to the gentlelady, my good friend from Georgia. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Good, and thank you for letting us have this time together. Chairman Perry, Mr. Cawthorn, Mr. Good, Mr. Norman. I'm honored to stand here with you all to stand in defense of our Second Amendment rights. And I say this not only as a member of Congress, but I say this as a woman, and I say this as a mother, and I say this also as an adult that knows what it's like when my school was held hostage by another student with a gun, a very upset student. It's not the guns that are the issue. It's the severe mental illness and the breakdown in America with our morals and our values and this severe divide among all of us as Americans. And I want to add to this, and this is a story that I haven't even been able to share with my good colleagues here, but just this weekend, now that I'm a member of Congress, you know, many of us, we get a lot of death threats, but one of my family members received a voicemail on their personal cell phone from a man saying very, very bad things about me, and then saying, "This is what I'm going to do to her," and he cocked a gun and shot it several times. This is the type of threats I get, and it came with the threat of a gun. But I tell you this, as a woman and a gun owner, I need to be able to have any kind of gun that I want to own to defend myself, to defend my family, to defend my home. God forbid if someone chose to do something to me. And you see, here's the issue. It doesn't matter how many gun control laws we put in place. It doesn't matter how many types of guns that are banned. The criminals and the people who intend to do harm to others, those that would murder someone even if they could murder them with their bare hands, they're still going to do it. And they're not going to be the ones that hand over their guns to the government. Oh no, they're going to be keeping their guns so they can continue breaking the law. We have guns coming across our border every single day illegally. We have terrorists that have been caught at our border. And then we have a lot of gotaways, and we don't know how many of those are terrorists and what kind of criminals, how much human trafficking, how much child trafficking is happening down there. Crime is up in every single city and county and small town across America. Americans need their guns. And there should not be a ban on assault weapons because it's not about the gun or the weapon. It's about what is inside someone's human heart. What we have to do is we have to stand in defense and protect our Second Amendment because it's the most important freedom that we have. If we are unable to do that and we lose it in the name of the so-called issues and where they're pointing at really what is a tool, a gun is a tool. The gun doesn't get up and kill people on its own. It's the people that do it. And when you take away all the guns from the legal gun owners, the criminals will be the ones that are left with the guns. And then you want to know what happens? Even if those guns are gone, they're still going to commit murder, and they'll just use something else. It's about elections. That's why they're trying to ban assault weapons, because inflation is out of control, crime is out of control, gas prices are difficult to afford. Now our president is moving us on into some sort of clean energy that just will fail America even more. This isn't what we need to do, and I'm so happy that there are people here that want to stand in defense of people's gun rights. And I yield back to Chairman Perry.
I told Congresswoman Greene, I said, everyone here is waiting to see you. They want to hear you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I was just saying, you know, Sarah and I, we need a whole hour out here with you guys. What do you think?
We would love to do it. They are going to keep us on a timer, so I'm going to start off with the first question. And I told you, I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to these allegations that came up and lies. We saw memes and lies. I showed you one of them, trying to compare your statements to Adolf Hitler.
Well, there we go. The laughter from the crowd is exactly right. Well, you know what, Sarah, I take that very seriously. Ever since I've become a member of Congress, I've been the most attacked member of Congress in United States history, and I'm appalled by it, and so is my family, and so are my friends, and so are my district. Being kicked off committees and lied about constantly in the media is disgusting, and all of us are fed up with it. But when I said that I'm a Christian nationalist, I have nothing to be ashamed of, because that's what most Americans are. We're proud of our faith. We're proud of our faith and we love our country. And that will make America great again. When we lean into biblical principles, you know, is there anything wrong with loving God and loving others? No. And when we lean in, and the Republican Party is the party that serves America and Americans first, then we really will win, and the Democrats will not destroy our country. So I don't back down from those comments, but I denounce the lying media for what they've said. Enough of it.
And you've seen that over and over again. This is an issue that has been first and foremost, I think, ever since 2016 specifically. We saw the nation, you know, in turmoil, political turmoil, the weaponization of our agencies, the targeting attacks on President Trump, as well as other Republicans who supported him. Talk a little bit about that and how that not only affects the members of Congress and how you're going to handle that in the future, but affects the American people.
Well, I think it affects all of us. And what I've seen in Washington ever since I've gotten there is fear because of these lies in the media. And look at what we've all dealt with. Why is it that the mainstream media, and why is it that the trolls all over social media, and you know the ones that run the big tech platforms, why do they get to lie about President Trump, his administration, Republicans like me? Why does CNN get to sell the Russian collusion lie over and over and over again, and now sell Liz Cheney's lie of January 6th over and over and over again? Why do they get to call me horrific names and call you horrific names, kick all of you off of social media and silence your voices? Why do they get away with it? But yet at the same time, Sarah, you want to know something? Like somebody like Alex Jones, who did say some things, but yet he is being politically persecuted right now and being forced to pay out millions and millions of dollars. And no one agrees with what he said, but what we're tired of is the political persecution. I'd like to know, when the Democrats and the liars in the media and the people that canceled all of you and me on big tech, when are they going to pay all of us millions of dollars, right?
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Congresswoman Greene. We're here in Somerville and Chattooga County, where flooding has been at unprecedented levels. Most of the businesses here have been completely wiped out. There's a local nursing home where patients really need water. All the water's turned off. What we're asking for is we need large jugs to fill using these water delivery systems. It's like this truck right here, where we can fill up large jugs of water and take to the nursing home. Blake, how many people are in the nursing home again? 124. 124 people are living in the nursing home. Water's completely turned off, so we are in need of jugs, large jugs, to transport water over there. They have bottled water, but we need bigger jugs to make sure these people are taken care of. We also need help. We need dehumidifiers, fans, bottled water, any kind of water resources people can bring. If you live in Northwest Georgia, if you live in Northeast Alabama, or you're willing to just come in and help out, please do so. We're here in Somerville and Chattooga County, and you can see we've got some water trucks here. Come on over here. We've got Catoosa County has brought their water delivery system, and people are just having to come and bring their jugs. So this is just getting started. It may be, we aren't sure, 7 to 10 days before the water is turned back on. So help is greatly appreciated and definitely needed. I'll keep you guys updated. Thank you.
Let's get up here in place. Let's get right over here so we get a good shot.
We went back in session tonight, just had 3 votes, spent a little bit of time reflecting on the death of Queen Elizabeth. Congress had a moment of silence for her. But we're getting ready for the week tomorrow, and there's one bill that I'm particularly bothered about. This is a bill that would take away the power from the President of the United States, the executive branch, to fire people. These are called Schedule F employees. This is very important under President Trump's administration, where he wanted to be able to fire people and remove them out of positions controlling the government. It's so important for any president to be able to do that. Well, the Biden administration, the Democrats, are going to change it. And they're going to pass a bill tomorrow to take away the ability to fire these Schedule F employees. These are the people that never leave. As a business owner, it's so important to be able to fire people in your business when they aren't doing a good job. Well, this is a Democrat effort so that when President Trump comes back into office in 2024, he won't be able to fire the people that the Biden administration has put in place in the executive branch. I'll be voting no tomorrow, and I'll keep you all updated on this bill.
You're getting
I'm not.
kids
I'm
shot in
protecting
school.
children.
You're helping kids get shot in school.
No, I'm not.
Record me. I don't give a fuck.
No,
You're helping.
You're a coward is what you
How
are.
am I a coward?
You know what?
You're the one running away. You're the one running away.
No, gun rights protect people. That stops people from...
Oh yeah, what does gun rights do for all the kids who keep getting shots in school? How am I a coward? Representative Greene. Am I scared of guns?
You're scared of legal gun owners that want to protect their kids in school. Shame on you.
How? Shame on me?
Yeah, go move to another country where they take away your guns.
I want to live in a country where kids don't get shot. I want to live in a country where kids don't get shot. I don't think you like that.
You know what?
So you like? So do you like living in a country where kids keep getting shot in school and dying?
We need access to the sidewalks.
Aren't you the tourist guy?
You were not voting.
Yeah, you're the guy that said that the insurrection was just a group of tourists, right?
No, yes, you want to know how I'm voting?
Yeah, that was you. That was you. I recognize your face. So just to be clear,
Second Amendment prevent gun violence. The Second Amendment. How does the Second Amendment prevent gun violence?
You're the one that believes that the insurrection
step out of the
was
way.
a tourist.
You're blocking a member of Congress.
Excuse me, ma'am.
You're blocking a member of Congress. You need to
Talking
stay
to
away.
members of Congress.
You can't block members of Congress.
We are talking.
You literally cannot do that. That's against
Some of my
the
we're literally unpaid.
I have a question. I was in Boulder during the Colorado shooting at the supermarket where 10 people were murdered down the street.
You know what? I support people to protect themselves with their guns, okay?
What
you know
did you
what?
say to the children that keep getting shot?
Murder is illegal. Murder is illegal.
Shouldn't-
No, you know what?
Shouldn't Americans have the right to go to the grocery store
Americans
without
should have the
having
right
the
to
fear to
protect
be
themselves.
murdered?
Americans should have the right to
Yes, sir.
protect
Yes, sir.
themselves. Gun-free zones is where people die. Gun-free zones
People
is
died
what
in the
causes
grocery
people
store.
to die.
Down my-
Yeah,
It was a
gun-free
Yeah.
zone. Gun-free zone. Look
Was
at
the Texas grocery store gun-free zone? It was not. It was not an innocent open carry state.
Like I said, you guys should move to some country where you can't have guns.
Okay, so you're telling me to move out of the country. That is your official position as a member of Congress.
Buffet of governments.
Okay, so I just want to be clear.
But right here in America, we're going to defend
your
our
official
Second Amendment
position as
rights.
a member of Congress is that I should move out of the country.
No, you have a free choice. Go somewhere else. We have the Second Amendment here.
So
We love it. You know what? We will always protect our Second
I should
Amendment.
move out because I don't want kids getting shot in school.
I'm going to protect our Second Amendment. It's great.
Again, I'm not
You want to
interested
know
in
why?
talking to you
Because I'll
you
always
think
defend
the
myself.
insurrection
I'll
was
defend my
a tourist.
children. I'll defend my home, especially from people.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition of H.R. 302, Preventing a Patronage System Act. And the reason why I do so is that the executive branch needs to function in a way that helps the administration, the current president of the United States. President Trump had an executive order to make a section called Schedule F, where employees could be terminated. This is very important, and the reason why I say so is I'm also a business owner, and it is very important for any business owner, any CEO, anyone running a company to be able to terminate people working under them. This is an important function of the executive branch. Preventing a Patron of System Act takes that away. It makes it to where they can put people into positions where you cannot fire them. That's wrong. This is not how the government should be working. It shouldn't be putting people in places, unelected bureaucrats, into positions and jobs where they cannot be terminated. Anyone should be fired. You see, there's a reason why the American people call Washington, D.C. the swamp, and it's not just because it's built on a swamp. It's called the swamp for a reason, because the American people see the government as a place where they call swamp creatures. They think they never leave. And in doing so, the Preventing a Patronage System Act, this bill will formally make it a federal law in order to just make that happen. You see, we really need a system in place. We need to make sure that we don't pass federal laws where people cannot be fired. It should never be the case. People should be fired if they're not doing a good job. People should be fired if they are not doing things effectively for the administration they work for. The President of the United States should be able to fire whoever he or she wants. The Democrats want to pass this bill to empower Democrat operatives, people that they've hired, people that they put in their administrations. They want to make sure those Democrat operatives are there to be able to undermine the next Republican president of the United States. That should not be a federal law. And as a business owner, I'm telling you, it's so important to be able to fire people in your company that aren't doing a good job. And it should be no different for any president. The executive branch must be able to have people working there that can be terminated. Everyone knows the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, and on the Black Pearl, it's the second one, it has pirates on the ship that become part of the ship walls. Effectively, that's what H.R. 302 is doing. Preventing a Patronage System Act will make employees in the executive branch just that, part of the building walls, making it impossible to get rid of them. So for this reason, I oppose this bill, and I urge my colleagues to vote against it, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Just introduced articles of impeachment on President Joe Biden. Joe Biden is selling our strategic petroleum reserves. This should never happen. He is draining our reserves and selling our oil, Americans' oil, to foreign countries, and China is a top buyer. China is our enemy. They are not our friend. They're buying Americans' oil. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is our emergency supply for if something goes wrong in this country. It's now down to 434 million barrels of oil. That is nearly half of what it was when President Trump left office. This is an outrage. This is completely wrong, and no president of the United States should be doing this to the American people. It's going to create a national emergency crisis, and that's exactly what President Joe Biden is doing. This is the number, H.R. 1362, impeach Joe Biden.
Hey everyone, this is Congresswoman Greene, and I just want to talk to you about something that it really bothers me. Right now, we have a wide open border. We have a serious border crisis where we've had over 2.2 million illegal aliens invade our southern border. President Joe Biden doesn't care anything about our border, but there is a border that he cares a lot about, and it's not this country's border, it's Ukraine's border. Now, while we are all concerned and we care very much about what's happening to the people of Ukraine and pray for them daily, I have voted no to every single penny going to a proxy war with Russia, Biden's war with Russia, because I believe that our American tax dollars need to be used only for our country while we have so many problems, security crises, and while this administration is failing. But here, I want you to know something. Congress is being lobbied this week, not by the American people, but by people in support of Ukraine and from Ukraine. As a matter of fact, I got a visit by someone that is actually from San Francisco, has been on many news interviews, MSNBC and places like that, named Andriy Liskovich, and he left me a note. And his note is saying that he is a Trump supporter. He claims to be a Trump supporter of Ukrainian descent. He says he appreciates my concerns about Biden admin's support for Ukraine, but yet despite these reservations, he urges my consideration of the U.S.'s ongoing support for Ukraine in the form of increased military aid. So basically, I don't know if Mr. Liskovich is a registered foreign lobbyist or not, but he came to my office, left a note in his business card, asking me, literally saying, please consider voting. I guess we're being called to vote. Speaking of voting, we're being called to vote. This is the noise in it. Show them the clock. Here, turn. See the clock? That's what buzzes when Congress has a vote. Okay, come on back. So I have a few more minutes before I have to head over to the Capitol. So Mr. Liskovich says, please consider voting for the $11.7 billion package of aid requested by the Biden administration, despite my differences with the president. Here's the issue. It doesn't matter who the president of the United States is. I have a major issue with billions and billions, and we're talking about tens and tens and billions of American hard-earned U.S. tax dollars being spent for another country's border for a proxy war with Russia, nuclear Russia, when this administration could care less about our own southern border. And here, let me make it very clear. This is, oh, he also brought something else, and I have it on a paper plate because I have no idea if this thing's contaminated. This is a spent Russian shell that he left here with my staff and claimed that it was found near the nuclear facility in Ukraine. That was part of the see how bad this is, near a nuclear facility, send us $11.7 billion. Well, let me tell you about the fentanyl crisis in America. Let me show you where my voters come from. This right here is a map of Georgia's 14th district. This right here is where I'm from. These are the people that elected me to represent them here in the House of Representatives as their member of Congress. All of these people right here are not calling my office. As a matter of fact, they're not coming to my office begging me to send $11.7 billion to Ukraine. Do you want to know what they're calling my office about? They are calling my office about the inflation they cannot afford, the fact they cannot afford groceries at the grocery store. They are calling me about the gas prices. They are calling me about illegal aliens that are now landing in northwest Georgia that came across our southern border very, very far away in Texas, Arizona, California, New Mexico. That is what they're calling me about. They're calling me saying, Marjorie, we are having to use, this is what our police and our sheriff's department say, they're using Narcan every single day in every single county in my district because of all the drug overdoses from the drugs that are flooding across the southern border. Fentanyl is coming from China. You want to know what the most calls I've gotten this week are? The most calls I've gotten this week from my district and from other people across the country is this one: impeach Joe Biden. They're calling and telling me, impeach Joe Biden, and they're thrilled with the fact that I was on Tucker Carlson's show last week saying I'm introducing articles of impeachment on Joe Biden again because he's selling our strategic petroleum reserves to foreign countries all over the world, and the biggest one is China. Joe Biden is selling our emergency oil reserves to China so that he can lower the gas prices for November 8th and they can hopefully win Democratic seats. Absolutely pathetic. So here's what the people here care about. The people that I represent care about the things that I should be working for them: impeaching Joe Biden because of him selling out our oil, impeaching Joe Biden because he cares nothing about our border and the American people and the border invasion. As a matter of fact, he is the greatest business partner that the Mexican cartels have ever had. Highest amount of drug trafficking, highest amount of human trafficking.
Nationalism and,
about Christianity and loving our country.
So that is how you interpret Christian nationalism. So, and that, I understand that, but the definition of it is something political.
I don't know any other definition, and I have no idea what you're talking about. To me, it just means having a Christian faith or Judeo-Christian principles, which are our founding principles for our country, and just loving our country, wanting our tax dollars in our policies here just to simply serve Americans. And that's it. There's nothing else to add to it. Just simply that.
To clarify, do you think that the government should enforce Christianity on others? Should our government be a religious entity?
You mean to choose one religion? No, that's not how this country is set up. We have religious freedom in America, which is a wonderful thing. But I do want to remind you that you see the words of God we trust in a lot of places inside that house chamber. So.
But it doesn't say Jesus, so it's not.
I didn't say Jesus.
No, I'm just saying.
I didn't say, and I said in America we have freedom of religion. But most Republicans believe in Judeo-Christian values and religious beliefs, and we love our country. These aren't bad things, these are good things for everybody.
So what do you say to people who believe that by, Christian nationalism has a specific definition?
I don't want to have anything to do with anything racist or anything compared to Nazism, because I think those things are horrific. So Tia, please do not twist up my words.
And that's I'm not. And that's why I want to give you a chance to clarify.
I have already clearly said it on this recording, and it is not anything different from that.
So should you maybe not use the word, you can say you're a Christian and you're patriotic, but should you perhaps not call yourself a Christian nationalist, knowing that that's what that means?
I don't know anything bad about
Who gets to say what words mean?
I'm asking her. Well, I mean, the definition
is I don't know who labeled that something bad.
Are you going by Wikipedia or what?
I don't know what organization labeled that bad. The word MAGA has been made into something bad. They're saying MAGA Republicans this. MAGA means Make America Great Again. There is nothing dangerous about that. There's nothing terrifying about that. There's nothing bad about that. That is good for every single American, regardless of identity, political party, and whatever they choose they are, whatever kind of life they live. Make America Great Again simply means having a great country and for all of its citizens. So these definitions that leftist groups or media companies, who are really, a lot of them are political activists that are Democrat political activists, that want to take terms that I say, like Christian nationalism, what other people say, and try to turn it into something evil or bad, I completely reject that. I am simply saying having Judeo-Christian beliefs, being proud of your faith in God, loving your country. These are wonderful things, and these are things that we should all care about.
Do you consider yourself a social person?
What does that mean to you?
Like, do you think you're a social person?
Sure, I like talking to you all the time.
So do you call yourself a socialist?
Okay, this is ridiculous.
I mean, that's the whole
Did you just actually said what is the definition of socialist?
Do you call yourself a socialist?
Okay, no, what is your definition of
I'm asking you.
No, I can't answer your question.
All right, come on.
That's the whole point. No, this is absurd, ridiculous.
You just said
I'm going to have to put this video out to prove to people how stupid your question just was just then. You're too smart to ask me stupid questions. Tia, do yourself a favor and ask normal questions. And don't make a fool of yourself making a big reach like that with
all
questions.
I'm saying is
no, I'm
words
done.
matter.
No. You know what? Words matter. I didn't know lie about my words or any of the other media people. You're trying to do it right there. You're trying to do it right there.
To address the House for 1 minute, Madam Speaker.
Without objection.
Thank you. We've watched tens of billions of dollars be sent to defend another nation's border that is not our own. Every single day, our border is invaded by people from foreign lands and also by drugs. Over 300 people are dying every single day. Americans are dying every single day from fentanyl poisoning. Yet the Biden administration and this Congress has not done anything to protect our nation's border and the American people. Just to remind everyone, the building that we're standing in, the federal government, and everyone's paychecks here is paid by the American taxpayers. And the American taxpayers and the American people deserve to have a secure border and deserve the protection of the federal government from the Mexican cartels that funnel drugs into America to kill Americans. I'm calling for an audit of every single penny that has been sent to Ukraine, including aid money, and any other monies that have been given to the Ukrainian government to defend their national security, where our national security has been ignored. This must be done. It has to be done as soon as possible for the American people. They deserve transparency, and they deserve to see where their money is going. I yield back.